ourselves committing that. So it means we build the connection. This is the first step. So if I, you, and we all, and all Muslims, they want to be connected with Allah Almighty, associated with Allah Almighty, they want to develop Allah Almighty. So this is the first step we need to take. So from today, whatever is, it is our domestic life, it is our matrimonial life, it is our social life, or it is our national life, financial life, whatever the life and the aspect of our life is there, this is how we build the connection, because obedience of Allah Almighty is the first step towards the connection. So the second point what I want to highlight, then connection through worship. First I have mentioned in everything, then worship, connection with worship. So I verse in of the Holy Quran in front of you. Allah Almighty says in Surah Al-Dhariyat, I did create humans and the jinns with what? What is the objective of the creation? Allah says to worship me. Allah Almighty clarifies and clearly mentions in the Quran, O human beings, O jinn. So we are human beings, so we'll take as a human being. O human beings, the purpose of your creation, the purpose of your raising is to worship me, to worship Allah Almighty. So we can develop the connection with Allah Almighty by worshiping Allah Almighty. Okay, then question arises over here. What does the meaning of worship? In Arabic, we say al-ibadah. Okay, what is the meaning of al-ibadah? Namaz is the only worship of Allah. Prayers are the only worship of Allah. Sometimes we think, okay, establishing Hajj is the worship of Allah. So there are many things are included in the worship of Allah Almighty. So literally meanings to follow the teachings of Allah Almighty, commandments of Allah Almighty. But there are two types of worship. Okay, there are two types, related to Almighty and related to people. I usually explain this point, but quickly I just go through. There are some worships of Almighty which are related to the Almighty, and some are related with people. What does it mean related with people? Supposingly, I have already mentioned, suppose Allah has if I follow the teachings of Allah Almighty, if I follow the commandments of Allah Almighty towards my family, towards my social life, towards my matrimonial life, towards my parenting life, and towards my social and financial life. So many relations are there in this world. So it is the ibadah as well. Ibadah is not when I worship Allah Almighty in a prayer, in the form of prayers. When I do fasting, that is the prayer. This is the worship. Yes, they all are the worships. But at the same time, if I follow the teachings of Allah Almighty in this world, when I deal with people, dealing with people, dealing with family, dealing with your with your country, with your state. So this is, they all fall in the types of worship Allah Almighty. If I become a good father and I provide everything to my children, that is ibadah. If I am a good husband and fulfill the rights of my wife, that is the ibadah. If I am a good brother and fulfill the rights and duties of my brother and sisters, I'm doing ibadah. So if I work with people financially, I pay them or they pay me, I work for them or they work for me. In both situations, I do my job accordingly, according to the teaching of Islam. That is ibadah. So there are two types of worship, related to the people, related with Almighty. Related with people, I have mentioned. What I have mentioned, or they all are worship. So if I become a good father according to the teaching of Islam, it builds the connection with Almighty. It too builds a connection. If I become a good father and husband, it builds a connection with Almighty, because I believe Allah Almighty has commanded me. Allah Almighty has provided teachings regarding this as well. So I hope I'm not going to go in detail. But as far as worshipping Allah, worship related to Almighty, this is what I'm going to discuss in a bit detail. So types of worship, but I'm discussing related to Almighty. So there are three types of worship. There are three types of worship, what we do towards our Almighty. Number one, physical worships. Okay, at-tahiyyat wa salawat wa tayyibat. Allah has mentioned, we do in the prayers as well, mentioned in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad. So there are some physical worships, supposedly prayers, in which our physical body is involved. Practically we do. So by worshipping Allah Almighty, related to those things which are related to Almighty, so there are three types. I repeat again: physical, Okay, prayers, in the pray we perform physical worship, so it's a physically we do. And Hajj and the fasting, they all are physical. Then we have monetary worship, in which we worship Allah Almighty by donating something in the way of Allah. That is all the worship. So Allah Almighty has made zakat obligatory. If I pay zakat, considering it obligation from Almighty, and I pay and in support and I donate in the way of Allah, and I support needy people and the poor people because my God has commanded me, it builds a connection with Almighty. It builds the connection, obedience of Allah. And then the third type of the worship is called verbal worship. The first is physical, which is known as amal, okay, fa'al. And monetary, it is mal, in which you give the money, monetary worship. And verbal, qali worship, what you do verbally. What you do verbally. What are the types of verbal worships? So we have various types of worships. Prayers are physical as well as verbal. We say Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmuk wa ta'ala jaddu. Glory to Almighty. All praises are for Him. He is free from all imperfections. So this is what we say. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Qul huwallahu ahad. Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. They all are the verbal worship in the prayers. Then we have Hajj. In the Hajj, we have some verbal worships. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Oh my Lord, I am present in your court. Innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk. All the praises, all the bounties are for you, Ya Allah. And all the praises are for you. And we praise just for you. So this is also worship of Allah Almighty, verbal worship. Then we have, reaction of Quran. Because I made quickly, recitation of Quran. When we read Quran, so it's we recite, we do the tilawah of Quran. It's a verbal worship. So this is another type of verbal worship. Then we have salutations upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is called the verbal worship as well. And the last point I've been a remembrance of Allah Almighty. Remembrance of Allah Almighty means dhikr of Allah Almighty. We say, Ya Allah, Allah, La ilaha illallah. Sometimes we mention His attributive names as well. Attributive names, Ya Haq, Ya Hay, Ya Jabbar, Ya Qahar. We pronounce and we say and we verbally pronounce His name. So this is called remembrance of Almighty. So up to here, what I have mentioned, I conclude so you understand properly. I mentioned we Muslims, being a Muslim, we believe in Allah Almighty. Being believer in Islam, we believe in Almighty. And the success is for the believers if they get connected with Almighty. What is the source of connection? The prophets and the messengers. They have provided the teachings. How do we build connection with Almighty? How do we build our relation with Almighty? Number one, I mentioned, by obeying the teaching of Almighty, we get connected. And number two, worship. Okay, so that type I have mentioned, they could be related to the people and they could be related to Almighty. And then I discussed the worship. So there are many types of worship: physical, monetary, and verbal. And I'm only talking about dhikr today, because whatever I have mentioned so far, I tried to build the foundation. So if I would have started straight away from the dhikr, so you might not understand where I'm coming from. Now we have understood Allah has created us to worship Him. There are many types of worship. Okay, some are related to people, some are related to Almighty. Those which are related to Almighty, they are many types. Okay, and one of them is called verbal worship. And there are many types of verbal worship. One of them is called the dhikr of Allah Almighty, remembrance of Allah Almighty. Okay, so now we are going to start the main topic, remembrance, inshallah ta'ala. So remembrance of Almighty, in Arabic we call it dhikr. Dhikr. Okay, what does it mean? Literal meaning, I go through quickly. The literal meaning of the dhikr is to remember. Okay, we remember Allah Almighty, dhikr. Number two, to refresh memory. Number three, to recall or revise something verbally or by heart. So this is called the dhikr. If you remember someone, obviously we are talking about Almighty, verbally or by your heart. So this is called dhikr. And then, okay, sometimes you read Quran, so you might read the word of dhikr. So I just tell you one thing, so you should not get confused. Application of the word dhikr in Quran. The word dhikr, Arabic language is very wide language and very comprehensive language. Each word contains many meanings. So similarly, the word dhikr, sometimes Allah has used the word dhikr with the meaning of remembrance, what we are discussing. But sometimes in the Quran, Allah has used the word dhikr as a meaning of reading Quran. Okay, sometimes Allah has used the word to establish 5 times daily prayer. Sometimes Allah has used the word dhikr for the purification, and sometimes Allah has used the word as a to remember. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udhkurullah dhikran kathira. O believers, do the dhikr of Allah, remember your Lord, do the dhikr of Allah Almighty. Here we will translate with the remembrance. But if you read Surah Al-Hijr, Allah Almighty says, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra. I have revealed this dhikr. So, and He is going to preserve and protect it. Allah Almighty, now the word dhikr means the whole Quran. Allah says, I have revealed this dhikr, which means Quran, and I'm going to protect this. So many times you read this word in Arabic language or in Quran, according to the context, you need to translate, and according to the interpretation of Prophet Muhammad, you need to understand. But what we are, sometimes it means dhikr, to remember Allah Almighty. So here we are taking the meaning of remembrance of Almighty, inshallah ta'ala. First of all, we should know, whatever we do, we should know the objective of the dhikr. Number one, objective of zikr. When I do the zikr, we have the circles of zikr. Either I do individually or I do collectively. There are many methods I will discuss later on. So number one, I should know, by doing this zikr, I am worshipping my God, what I have already discussed. But I'm going to mention in the one heading, what is the objective? Keep in mind, we should do everything with some objectives. Why? Because when we do something with having objectives in our mind, having intention in our mind, having some ambitions even in front of us, it increases the importance in our heart. So that's why objectives are very, very important. So whenever you read namaz, you should know the objectives. When you read the Quran, you should know the objectives. When you fast, we should know the objective. When we go to perform hajj, we should know the objectives. So objectives are there, because after performing that, we should analyze, we should assess, where are we standing? I have performed this particular thing. Did I get something out of that? So we need to be very, very careful about this. So what is the first objective? To worship Allah Almighty. So I'm worshipping my Lord by doing His zikr. Number two, to develop connection and relation with Allah Almighty. So I feel and I think by doing this, at the end, inshallah ta'ala, I will feel and I will try my best to develop my relation with Almighty. Number three, the objective is to obey His commandment. To obey His commandment. Allah Almighty Himself mentioned in Quran. Okay, Allah Almighty says, "O believer, do my dhikr as much as you can." So when we do dhikr, it means we are obeying the commandment of Allah Almighty. It is, obviously, it builds the connection as well. And because doing the dhikr is a sunnah of Prophet, so we should have the objective, when we are doing the dhikr, we are obeying the commandment of Almighty, as well as we are following the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa barik wasallam. So these objectives we should in our mind. Number one, we are worshipping by dhikr, we worship Allah Almighty. Number two, we build the connection with Almighty. We obey the commandment of Almighty, and we follow the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa barik wasallam. So whenever you do dhikr in the month of Ramadan, other than Ramadan, before you start, set the objectives. Keep in mind, this is why are we doing, and inshallah ta'ala, you will feel that. And then I'm going to discuss few points as the importance of the dhikr, importance inshallah ta'ala. What is the importance? How it is very important and significant. When you know the importance, inshallah ta'ala, it makes you more concentrated. It gives you more concentration, and you can fully concentrate and get the result out of that particular thing. So first point I'm going to discuss over here, remembrance of Almighty is the origin of all worships. What does it mean? One objective or purpose of the creation of human and jinns is worship to Allah Almighty. So when we all the types of the worship, so dhikr is the origin. Supposingly we read namaz, what we do? We say Allahu Akbar. So we remember Allah Almighty in the prayer as well. When we fast, what we say? What is the objective? Or why we do fast? Because we want to remember Allah Almighty, we want to get the pleasure of Allah, so zikr is there. When we pay charity, when we do Hajj, when we recite Holy Quran, when we do the salutations upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they all are the worships. But zikr is the origin of all worships. Whatever you do, zikr is the vital part of every worship. So this is the importance of the dhikr, because where you will find the zikr, you read namaz, subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, this is the zikr of Allah. Then you say alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, this is the zikr of Allah. When you say subhana rabbiyal a'la, this is the zikr of Allah. When we say sami Allahu liman hamida, this is the zikr of Allah. And when we read Quran, the whole Quran is the zikr of Allah. When we send salutations upon Prophet Muhammad, is the zikr of Allah Almighty. So one point is, remembrance of Allah is the origin of all worships. Number two, okay, the demand of the love. And we love Allah Almighty, okay, we are connected with Allah Almighty. So this is the demand of the love. Okay, I say I love that person and I do not talk about him. It does not happen. In Arabic we say, man ahabba shay'an fa akthara dhikrahu. Whoever loves someone, he mentions and he remembers that person as much, okay, abundantly. Okay, he all the time he talks about that person. So when we love Allah Almighty, so this is the demand of the love, we should remember him. So this is the importance. So when we do the dhikr of Allah Almighty, it means we love Allah Almighty, because when you remember someone, this is the sign of, and this is the expression of the love of Almighty. So 2 points I have discussed in the importance. Number one is the origin of all worships. Number two, doing dhikr is the demand of the love. And remembrance of Allah is a source of connection. I have already discussed. Remembrance of Allah is the best worship. This is the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you remember Allah Almighty, so Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam comparatively mentioned, because this is the origin, is also the best worship. Okay, because it gives you the connection and the love of Allah Almighty. Dhikr of Allah becomes a source of salvation from punishment. This is another hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whenever we do dhikr of Allah Almighty, Allah gives us reward. And what is the reward? And what He gives in return? He keeps us away from the punishment. Because when we do the dhikr of Allah, we get connected with Him. And then we start obeying the teaching of Allah. And we start obeying the teaching. So obviously, we do not commit bad deeds. We do not go for the mistakes. And obviously, we are away from the hellfire. So this dhikr protects us from hellfire, from the punishment, from the sins as well. So this is the beauty of the dhikr. And the last point I'm going to discuss, remembrance of Allah Almighty is a source of attaining blessings and mercy of Allah. I'm going to discuss this in detail, inshallah ta'ala. Remembrance of Allah is a cure from all disease and illness. This is another hadith of Prophet Muhammad. So by mentioning these few points, I just want to impart importance in your heart. So you should feel when you do dhikr, sometimes people think, sometimes people, because naturally human beings are a bit greedy. They want to know what I will get. Sometimes we get attracted towards something when we see the reward. Sometimes we get attracted when we read and listen something about, and we read something which is in fear. Supposingly Allah Almighty, He has mentioned in the Quran, Jannatin tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Do worship of Allah Almighty. What will I get? Allah Almighty says you will get the paradise. So in the society, a lot of people are there, because natural phenomena, sometimes you get attracted by hope, with the hope, by attraction. I will get Jannah. Okay, let's do it. Sometimes the nature of the people, they do not get attracted with the attraction what Allah has given. They get on the right path. They keep themselves on the right path with the fear of hellfire. Okay, I will be entering in hellfire. This is how I'm going to be punished. And they get the fear and they start doing something right. And they all keep themselves on the right path. Similarly, at home, sometimes if I want to make my children understand, sometimes I say, okay, if you do this, without any comparison, so if you do this, I will give you chocolate. And they start doing with the attraction. Sometimes you need to make them understand by saying, if you do this, I'm not going to talk to you. Okay, you're not going to, I'm going to take away this PlayStation. So fear, hope and fear. So similarly, if you read Quran, if you read Hadith, sometimes to attract us, to inspire us. Allah and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned something for the attraction, because people are greedy. Why should I do the dhikr? Sometimes I do not understand. But when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if you do the dhikr, your all illnesses will go. Okay, then I will start do. So this is habit. This is the nature of the person. Sometimes we say, I will get connection with Almighty. Okay, out of 10 out of 100 people, they will get inspired with this statement. But there are other people, how will they get inspired? So when they will listen the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, okay, all your physical illnesses, of all your spiritual illnesses will go away. Then he gets attracted. Okay, now okay, I should do the dhikr. Sometimes people okay, you will get the mercy of Allah, they will get attracted. So that's why in many ahadith, sometimes you read about the blessings, sometimes you will Allah Almighty says Allah will keep all the illnesses away. Sometimes Allah says you will build the connection with your Almighty. So many ahadith, many narrations with various words, that is the hikmah behind that. So this is why we need to read all of them. We don't know what things can attract us. Sometimes this narration, sometimes that attraction, and sometimes other things attract us, and we get motivated and we become committed and passionate to do that. So similarly, it is in the dhikr of Allah Almighty. That's why we have many verses and ahadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I want to do the dhikr. So there are many types of the dhikr. So I discussed only two so far. Number one, dhikr by tongue. Dhikr by tongue, verbal dhikr. Okay, it is known as dhikr al-lisani. Okay, dhikr by tongue. What is the definition of dhikr by tongue? Which is done verbally. Verbal remembrance of Allah Almighty. To pronounce or read loudly. Okay, when I say be with tongue, so obviously people can listen to me. So there are two school of thoughts in spiritualism. There are, as we have in the fiqh, as we have in the aqidah, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Tashayyu. In fiqh we have Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i. Similarly, in spiritualism, in Sufism, in Tasawwuf, we have various school of thoughts. Some people are Naqshbandi, some people are Qadri, some people are Chishti, some people are Sorwardi. So there are different school of thoughts. Why they are the different school of thoughts? Because they have different practices. Because people in the society have different liking and disliking. Some people, they get concentration, they get satisfaction of in the heart by doing the dhikr verbally, but everyone does not get. There are people in the society, they want to do the dhikr of Allah Almighty silently. Okay, they don't want to have anybody to read loudly. So different nature is there, different liking and disliking is there. So in order to cater all people in the society, various school of thoughts in spiritualism appeared and emerged. Naqshbandi, they are known to do the dhikr silently, like they prefer to do dhikr with heart. As far as Qadri and Chishti are concerned, they prefer to do dhikr loudly. Allahu, Allahu, everyone can listen. Okay, so there are two school of thoughts. I repeat again, in spiritualism, one says, I want to do dhikr loudly. Other says, we want to do dhikr silently. So it's up to us. Whatever inspires us, whatever gives motivation, whatever gives us satisfaction in the heart, we should join. There is no compulsion, and there is no any problem if someone says, if you do zikr loudly, you are going to go enter in hellfire. Astaghfirullah. This is not the matter of fiqh and matter of aqidah. So it's very simple thing. You can understand they cater all the people in the society, because in the society people have different approaches and people are different thinking, so they want to do different things. So they all school of thoughts are there in spiritualism. So 2 points I'm going to mention quickly because time is short. Dhikr by tongue. So we do dhikr loudly. Okay, what is the benefit? There are many benefits, but I'm going to discuss quickly because time is short. Okay, they have their own arguments and they have their own reasons. I don't say arguments, reasons. They say concentration developed. They say if you do the dhikr loudly with your tongue, obviously, so reading loudly helps us stay focused. And this is the ultimate objective of the dhikr, to concentrate on Allah Almighty. So they say when you do the dhikr of Allah Almighty with your tongue, so obviously it's happening loudly, so you can develop concentration. If you are doing silently, obviously you will not be able to, because you will be able to listen many people, they are talking to each other, so it might change your concentration. It might it might not develop your concentration, because when you speak something loudly, you don't hear everyone, because you are speaking yourself, you are saying something yourself. It's a natural thing. So one opinion is there. Why do they prefer loudly dhikr? Because they say it develops concentration. A person who cannot develop concentration in the dhikr, so which school of thought he or she should join? By dhikr loudly. Because if those people, they can build concentration with the silence as well, so okay, they should join that school of thought. Number two, the benefit of doing dhikr by tongue is makes other concentrated. Supposingly 5 people are doing the dhikr, if all of them are doing silently in their heart, so obviously if one of two of us or one of us getting demotivated, we are not able to getting concentration, so obviously there is no other way to get the concentration. But if 5 people are doing by tongue and they are doing a bit louder, so sometimes you do loudly, you develop the concentration of others as well. 5 people are doing the dhikr and I am losing the concentration in the dhikr. So, but my brothers, those who are sitting with me, when they will do, their sounds, their voice will motivate me as well, and then I can start doing again. So, if you do by tongue, it motivates other as well. So, this is another benefit of doing by tongue. Number three, you can listen to yourself. There is a stronger impact on our personality when we can hear ourselves. So doing zikr verbally helps us to build a better and stronger connection. There's a natural phenomena is there. If if you want to do something, and like if you memorize the Quran, and if you learn something, if you do something and you read loudly, and when you read loudly, you can hear yourself. Okay, you can learn quickly, you can memorize quickly, you can concentrate completely. This is the benefit of reading loudly. Supposingly, I have to do something and I'm doing whisper and I'm doing in my mind. So sometimes I do not get concentration. And when I do something and read something loudly, I hear myself. Okay, scientifically it's proved as well. I hear myself, so I get more concentration and I can get more interest in that. So this is the another benefit what Shaykh al-Islam has mentioned in his book. So when you listen yourself, so it gives you more concentration, it gives you more passion, and it gives you more understanding and satisfaction, and you can learn that thing quickly as well. So that's why they say there's a benefit of doing dhikr loudly, so you can listen yourself as well. Okay. Number four, motivation remains alive. Is almost the same point. This is a better concentration by reading verbally, so we stay more motivated. Okay. Sometimes if we are doing the dhikr for 5-6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes, obviously after 5 minutes you go down and other people are doing. But when you do loudly, everyone is doing together, so it motivation sometimes remains alive till the end. So if you lose the concentration in between, obviously you do not go up to the end, so you get only minimum benefit from that. So I repeat again, when we do the dhikr of Allah Almighty, there are school of thoughts, two school of thoughts: verbal, say loudly, doing loudly. They have their own vision, they have their own interpretations, they have their own reasons for that. And now we discuss about those who do the zikr in heart. They have their own doing in heart. They do not use the tongue, they do heart, because heart is the central place of all actions. So they say if our heart get concentrated, so all actions which will take place, they will get changed anyway. So when you do verbally, so your more concentration is your tongue. Okay, but you are not paying attention from your heart. So that's why, because you get diverted, so you are paying attention to your tongue and collectively, so your heart is not doing. So it means you are doing this verbally, so it does not reach to the heart. So this is another school of thought. They say we should do the zikr of Allah Almighty by heart, in heart, and then you get more benefit. Why? There are some reasons. Number one, they say elimination of spiritual illnesses of the heart. Okay, what is the spiritual illnesses? Jealousy, we become jealous. Number two, hatred. Number three, pride. There are some physical illnesses. God forbid if someone has, like corona, may Allah protect everyone. Heart diseases are there. A lot of problems are there. But there are some spiritual illnesses, such as jealousy is an illness, which is spiritual illness. Hatred, nafrat, and pride, takabbur, tanawwu. Okay, they all are the spiritual illnesses. those who belong to this school of thought, we should do zikr by heart. They say these all are the illnesses of the heart. And when you do the zikr of Almighty with your heart, so it becomes more easier to eliminate the illness of your heart. Because these are the illnesses, jealousy, hatred, and pride, which the outcome of these illnesses are very bad. So if you want to kill them, you need to do the zikr in your heart. So when the zikr of Allah Almighty will be doing by the heart, they will not stay in the heart. So they will eliminate from the heart. So this is their school of thought. Number two, they say steadfastness, istiqama. We can get istiqama, steadfastness, continuity if we do zikr by heart, because doing it verbally requires a specific place and time. But zikr by heart can be done at any time, anywhere. Very beautiful point. Supposingly, I'm doing my job in Minhaj-ul-Quran. I teach in one university. I teach in one college. While teaching, obviously, I'm teaching mathematics. So I cannot do the zikr of Allah, verbal zikr. I have to keep myself busy over there. So this school of thought, they say, if you belong to school of thought which do the zikr by tongue, you need special time for that, you need a special place for that. But if you are habitual and you become habitual of doing the zikr in your heart, you are free from, you don't need place and time. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing physically something, but your heart can be in the remembrance of Allah Almighty. If it becomes habitual, it becomes habitual, it gets trained by doing the zikr of by heart. So another school of thought. Number two, help us how to learn how to fight with satanic whispers. Shaitan is the one of the biggest enemy of all human beings. He whispers, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. He whispers. Where he whispers, Allah Almighty says in the Quran, fi sudurin nas, in the heart of the people. And they say shaitanic, all satanic whispers, shaitani waswase, they come in the heart. And if you do the zikr by heart, it becomes easier for you to eliminate and to reject the whispers of shaitan, because your heart becomes alive. So because you do the zikr of Allah Almighty with your heart, so it becomes easier for you to fight with shaitan, because shaitan attacks and it whispers in the heart of believers and the Muslims. So they have their own understanding. So we can do the dhikr. So what is the moderate way? Sometimes we can do the dhikr verbally, sometimes we can do the dhikr loudly. So we belong to both school of thought. So but whatever you like, you can join. And the main thing is, if you get the objective, because people in the society, a lot of people are there. My father, he doesn't like doing dhikr loudly. He belongs to that school of thought. By nature, he loves silence. By nature, he loves quietness. Then he focuses and then he enjoys. So but I personally like, I'm basically Qadri, so I like collectively everyone should do loudly. It gives me more motivation, it gives me more energy, it gives me more satisfaction. So a lot of people are there. So you need to think and analyze yourself, assess yourself, where are you, which school of thought you belong to, and you can do the zikr of Almighty. Both are rewarded by Allah Almighty. Then the respect of zikr. Quickly, I'm going to, inshallah ta'ala, Shaykh al-Islam has mentioned in his book about the respect of the zikr. I go through quickly. Respect is very important. Protocol. We should know why we are doing the zikr. We have discussed what are the types of zikr. We have discussed respect, because respect is very important. Protocol of the zikr. There is a protocol of everything. So there is a protocol of the zikr as well. Supposedly, when we go to the mosque, there is a protocol. We go to the job, there is a protocol. We go to university, there is a protocol. We go to the parties and wedding ceremonies, there is a protocol. Do we wear our nighties in the wedding, in the parties? No, there is a protocol. So everywhere there is a protocol. So similarly, there's a protocol in the court of Allah Almighty. So we have to have some adab, and these adab have been recommended by the great saints and the righteous people and the awliya. First of all, there are three things: before doing the dhikr, while doing the dhikr, and after doing the dhikr. So this is what they mentioned. Quickly, time is short, so I go through few things. Number one, before doing it dhikr, we should have our body clean. Okay, it is not compulsory to have wuzu, but if it is recommended, it is mustahab to have wuzu, purification of heart, because physically, and you all agree, if supposedly if someone does not take bath for 5 6 days, and after 5 6 days or after 4 days, when you take bath, you take shower, you change your clothes, so naturally you feel better. If you are from outside, apparently, externally, if you are clean, if your clothes are clean, your body is clean, so it gives an impact on spiritual feelings as well. So it is a natural thing. So that's why it is recommended to have your body clean, to have your clothes clean as well. Number two, the second protocol is, Shaykh Islam has mentioned in his book, to use perfume, to use itar. Okay, because there is an impact of the itar as well in your feelings. So when you put the zikr and the when you do the dhikr, so put some perfume and itar before that. It gives you more connection, inshallah, because perfume, good smell, has a positive impact on your nature. So number three, there's a less talking and less eating. Less talking and less eating. Less talking means before you doing dhikr for a while, you should keep silent. Why? I can explain every point, but there is no time. What is the psychological reason? Supposingly, I'm talking to you, and I'm discussing a lot of things. I'm discussing my job issues, I'm discussing my family issues, I'm discussing my children issues, and all of a sudden announce zikr is going to start, and okay, I'm talking about my son, straight away Allah, oh, Allah, oh. It does not give the connection. So that's why it is recommended before you start the zikr, for a while, stop talking. Stop talking. Because when you are talking something, something is going on in your mind. So you will not be able to concentrate. You will not achieve the target. So before doing the dhikr, spare some time and be silent. And then for a while, just concentrate and do muraqabah. I'm going to do the dhikr. Make your intention, and then try and keep your all the objectives in front of you, and then think, I'm going to go in the court of Allah Almighty. I'm remembering my sustainer, my Lord, my Khalik, my creator. And then you will start focusing. If you are talking and straight away you enter in the zikr, it will take time to start and get to develop your feelings. So it is very important. That's why Shaykh Islam has mentioned, and other scholars, they have mentioned, Hudur Ghasbag in Ghuniyatul Talibin, he has mentioned, so before doing zikr, okay, stop talking. And number two, eating as well. Okay, so after eating, obviously there is an impact of eating, is okay, less eating, because when you eat you eat a more, okay, you eat a lot, so then sometimes you become lazy. So if you have less eaten, so then obviously you will be able to concentrate more. Otherwise you will become lazy. Sometimes you start sleeping, because most of the time we switch off the light and then we do the zikr of Allah Almighty. And then there is another point. So you can it depends upon people. Sometimes they want to do the dhikr in darkness, because when the light is on, normally we do the dhikr as we did in the center minhaj at the head. We used to switch off the light. Why? Because when the light, it's not compulsory. These are all psychological issues and spiritual connections. What great Sufia, what they have experienced, they have mentioned to us, and they ask us to apply. We might get the same feelings what they have been getting and they have been experiencing. Because when the light is on, so while doing zikr, sometimes I look here, sometimes I look there, what's happening there, because the light is on. So sometimes I divert my attention. When the light is off, so there's a darkness, you cannot see. So obviously with the everyone, you will be able to concentrate as well. So it's totally up to the person. It's not faraid, it's not obligatory actions, it is just recommendation. It's better. They have shared their experiences with us, so they have got some benefits out of these practices, we might get as well. And while there are many others, I'm just leaving. While doing it dhikr, so they have mentioned, sit in a tashahud position. Recommended, not for the gain. What is the tashahud position? The shahud position is the position when you sit in the prayer, when you read at-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawat wat-tayyibat. Because this position is the best position. Why? Because the prayers, namaz, is the best worship of Allah Almighty. And how do you sit in the prayer? That position. So that position is the beloved position in the eye of Allah, because it shows humbleness. It shows humbleness. When you sit laying your legs across, obviously it does not show the humbleness, it does not show the respect. When you sit the way you sit in at-tahiyyat, when you read, so that is the position what Allah likes, because this is the part of the prayer. This is how we sit. Number two, it shows the humbleness. Okay, if you are humble towards your God, is a recommendation. If someone cannot sit like that, no harm. Okay, at least it should be a respectable way. We should not put our legs in front of people and then we are open our legs. So they are not the right way to sit for doing the dhikr. Number two, keep your objective in your mind all the time. Number three, shaitan. While doing zikr, shaitan attacks a lot. A person who is not in the circles of zikr, shaitan has nothing to do. Shaitan gives the importance and attacks those people who are involved in the good things. When you are praying, shaitan will whisper you a lot. When you are doing something good and you are doing the ibadah of Allah Almighty, you will have more attacks of shaitan. You have more whispers from shaitan. So while doing the dhikr, this is experience. You can experience yourself. Sometimes while doing dhikr, all of a sudden some other thoughts comes. What is that? That is the whispers from shaitan. So shaitan attacks a lot. Not before shaitan attacks as well, but while doing the dhikr, shaitan attacks more. So that's why we need to, whenever the whispers come, we need to be ready to reject the whispers of shaitan. So we need to be ready, like shaitan will whisper in our heart and will try to divert the concentration. So we have to be careful about that. And there are few more. And okay, very beautiful point Shaykh al-Islam has mentioned. Do for the moderate time. Maintain the moderate time. Maintain moderate time means don't do too much. Obviously, we are human beings, so we have some capacity, ability, and if we go beyond the capacity, obviously next time we will not be able to do. Okay, so what happens? Once upon a time, there was a one companion. He used to lead namaz in the time of Prophet. One other companion, after doing the hard work whole day, he came for Isha prayer. He was reading the Isha prayer. He read behind the Imam. Imam started reading Surah Al-Baqarah in Surah Al-Isha. Sorry, in the prayers of Isha, namaz of Isha. That companion who has been doing the hard work whole day, his job was so tough. He broke the prayer and went away. Someone complained in front of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam called both of them, and then he said, "You are the Imam. You should be very careful. You should be very careful about those people who are standing behind you. They have a lot of things to do at home. So be moderate in your prayers. Read very, very moderate chapters of Quran, like moderate part of the Quran. Don't read too small, don't read too very less, and don't read too many verses. So obviously they are human beings. So we can get one ruling from there. We are human beings. A lot of people, when they get committed, they start reading Quran, and one day they read 5, and next day they don't read at all. So rather than leaving next day, it's better to have moderate time now. So while doing zikr, we need to keep in mind, when you get tired of the zikr, stop doing it. Otherwise, shaitan will have chance to whisper you, okay, it makes you tired. It gets you tired, so you need to stop the dhikr. So this is why we need to be very moderate. There are many others. I'm just going to leave so far. After doing dhikr, okay, one more in the time. Sorry, while doing dhikr, one more point Shaykh al-Islam has mentioned. We need to have imagination. This is very beautiful point. It's not far, but it develops a connection. I give you one example. Whatever you imagine, you start feeling it. Supposingly, I start talking about biryani, or you all are fasting now. I talk about the pizza, Italian pizza. I talk about the Turkish breakfast in Hague. Okay, so what is coming in your mind? So you start feeling thirsty and hungry, because whatever you think, whatever you imagine, you close your eyes and imagine something. So it develops your concentration. This is the power of the imagination. This is the power. Supposingly you want to be in Makkatul Mukarramah. You close your eyes in imagination and you feel you are in the Makkatul Mukarramah. So you get concentration sometimes. So whatever you feel, whatever you imagine, you feel it. So that's why this is the power of imagination, and we can get benefit with this power Allah has given us. So scholars have mentioned, and Sufia has mentioned, while doing dhikr, you should imagine something. Otherwise, if you're doing dhikr with your heart, in imagination, something else is coming. So obviously your imagination, your power, and the heart and your tongue, they are not on the same point, on the same platform. So they will get diverted. So better is have some positive imagination. You can imagine Makkatul Mukarramah, you are standing in front of Makkatul Mukarramah, because it's a sign of the worship. We prostrate in front of it, and we obviously prostrate Allah Almighty. We get the spiritual feelings when we imagine Makkatul Mukarramah. When you imagine the green dome, Gumbad-e-Khazra of Prophet Muhammad, we feel a spiritual feeling. Okay, sometimes scholars say you can imagine your Shaykh, you can imagine Quran, you can imagine anything belong to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because imagination gives you spiritual feeling, and then it develops your concentration. So sometimes while doing dhikr, we need to imagine something, and particularly I think recommendations are there: Makkatul Mukarramah, Madinatul Munawwara, and those who have seen Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their dreams, so they can imagine Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After doing dhikr, very few points are there. They say after doing zikr, sit for a while. Sit for a while and assess yourself. While doing zikr, what types of feeling you have achieved? What types of thought you have achieved? Okay, what was diverting you? Okay, 10 minutes you did the zikr, loudly or silently, whatever, by tongue or by heart, whatever. So did you achieve your target? Like what type of feeling did you have? Okay, so shaitan was whispering. Okay, you were not able to concentrate. Okay, if you concentrated, how long did it remain over there? So you need to assess yourself. After doing zikr, straight away don't go. That's why Shaykh al-Islam, you must have experienced, after doing the dhikr, Shaykh al-Islam usually says al-muraqabah, and then everybody bows, everybody puts their head down, and then for a while they are silent. Why? Because you need to assess what you have done. If otherwise, after doing zikr, you will run away, so you will not be able to assess where are you and what next you are supposed to do. You will stay here. What are we doing now? Okay, because walal akhiratu khairul laka min al ula. Every upcoming moment should be better than previous one. In spiritualism as well, if I keep doing the same zikr and I get the same feeling every day, and I do not promote myself, I do not project myself, I do not grow towards spiritualism, so there is no point then. So you need to assess. As we assess and calculate our practices in our jobs, in our businesses, risk assessments are there. So this is the assessment we need to have after doing the dhikr. For a while, stay connected and think what you have achieved. So if there are some weaknesses, you can improve. If there are betterment in the dhikr, there is a connection built, feeling built, sorry, a lot of benefit you have got, so you can move forward, and then next time you should have better feelings. So this is how we need to assess ourselves, inshallah ta'ala. There are many other points I was not able to discuss. Obviously time was very short, so time is going to finish now. So few things, virtues of zakirin, and I have mentioned many things. I will send you the slides if you want, so you can read yourself, because the time is short, and 7:30 I have to finish. I repeat again, conclude, and then I leave this. And very easy English I have mentioned over there. I did not mention the hadith of Prophet exactly. I just elaborated in my own way. So you can read Zakirin. If you do the dhikr, you become the practitioner of the dhikr. What benefit you got to you, and you get, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, like you get the company of Allah, you are become the beloved of Allah, and dua of Zakirin is accepted, and then hearts of Zakirin are alive. And what is the importance of alive heart and living heart? Time is not there, otherwise I would discuss. Sins of Zakirin are forgiven. What is the benefit of zikr? Obviously, on one hand we are doing the zikr, on another hand Allah is blessing, He is forgiving our sins. This is another benefit. Zakirin will placed under the shelter of Allah Almighty on the day of judgment. So these things motivate us. I mentioned before, when you read these narrations of Prophet, encouragement of Prophet, so we get encouraged and motivated. Let's do these benefits we are getting, and when we start doing, we get ourselves on the right path. Then Zakirin will be the greatest in their rank on the day of judgment. And then we have Zakirin will enter Jannah with a smiling face. Alhamdulillah. Zakirin will receive the Noor of Allah, the night of Allah Almighty. So these all are the blessings and circles of zikr. What are the circles of zikr? So I have mentioned a few things over here, so you can read yourself, inshallah. Then inshallah it will benefit you. Just one point I discussed, the fifth point. Circles of zikr are the gardens of paradise. In this dunya, Prophet ﷺ says you can visit the garden of paradise. How? Prophet ﷺ says enter in the circles of zikr. When people die doing the zikr of Allah Almighty. Who does not get the blessings? Important. Number one, who remains in the bad company. Who remains in the bad company, he does not get the blessing, the zikr as well. Because bad company has an impact upon you. When you are in the bad company, you are talking, you are thinking, you are observing a lot of things. It remains in your mind while doing the zikr as well. So when you start doing zikr, you want to uplift yourself spiritually. So you need to avoid bad companies, then you will get more blessings. Okay, it does not happen you just committing, you are doing the zikr of Allah Almighty, other hand bad companies you are not leaving, so nothing will be benefited. So you need to avoid. That's why it is mentioned, do zikr of, okay, do good deeds and avoid bad deeds, both are together. If you do only good deeds but you don't avoid bad deeds, it does not benefit. Both things have to go parallel. Do good, have good company and avoid bad company. Do good deeds and avoid bad deeds. This is how it will work. Number two, who does not pay respect, who does not follow the protocols, you do not get the blessings. And number three, the most important thing, haram provisions, haram risk. If my income is haram, if my source of income is haram, what if I eat something and drink something which has been purchased by the haram income, I do not, even my worships are not accepted. 40 days, Allah, Al Prophet ﷺ says, du'as are not accepted. So that's why we need to avoid bad company, we need to avoid. Number two, we need to learn the protocols of the dhikr. And number three, we need to avoid all haram risk. And then spiritually, I can uplift myself, I can grow spiritually, inshallah ta'ala. Next point, I could not write because the time was very short. I just mentioned randomly. Zikr of Allah Almighty can be done individually and can be done with the congregation, silently and loudly. I have already discussed zikr by tongue and zikr by heart. But another way is called doing the zikr of Allah Almighty individually, or doing the zikr of Allah Almighty publicly. So Allah Almighty Himself mentions in Hadith Qudsi, if you remember me, if you do my zikr individually, I will remember you individually. And if you do my dhikr publicly, I will do your dhikr publicly. When publicly means with people, with other creations as well. So when we do the dhikr collectively with human beings, obviously. So how does Allah do the publicly? Okay, how does Allah do? Allah does with the angels. So this is how Allah mentions our name. In return, Allah remembers us as well. So doing dhikr is one of the way of worshipping Allah Almighty, and worshipping Allah Almighty is the purpose of the creation of human being. And by worshipping Allah Almighty, we connect ourselves with Allah Almighty. We connect ourselves with Almighty, and the connection, when the connection gets built, this is the time, and this is the success of a mankind, and this is the success of human, and this is the success of a believer and the believers and Muslims and believers in Islam. What I have said something wrong, it is due to me, due to my nafs. If I have said something right, this is the blessing of Allah Almighty and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So few things I have discussed. I could not go through the narrations of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want, I will send these slides so you can read by yourself, and then inshallah ta'ala feel. So let's commit today. Just we will pray to remember Allah Almighty. We can do many worships, but particularly we can remember Allah Almighty by sparing some time. It builds a connection as well. Okay. So may Allah forgive all of us. So this is for me now. If I what? Okay. So let's make dua. And Prophet Muhammad says, "Ad-du'a'u maghzul ibadah." So the dua is the brain of worship. So please, 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 whenever you do something, any good action, you must do dua after that, because that is the time when you are being rewarded by Almighty, and when He's going to reward, and we start moving. So after pray, do dua. When you finish the fast, do dua. After Taraweeh, do dua. After recitation, do dua. After salutations, do dua. And after any spiritual session, any educational classes or anything, what we do good, inshallah ta'ala, we can make dua. So let's make dua. Inshallah ta'ala. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay, I request all of you, because I will get your 2 more minutes. Let's read Surah Al-Fatiha with all those who are suffering and with illness due to COVID-19. So because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, Al-Fatiha is the dua. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim is a dua. Whatever you want to make dua, whatever you want to ask Allah Almighty, you can read Al-Fatiha. At the same time, Al-Fatiha is shifa as well. Let's read one time Al-Fatiha. I don't know how many brothers and sisters are sitting 100 times, 50 times, 60 times. If we read together, inshallah ta'ala, so we make dua to in the court of Allah Almighty. Allah give shifa to all those who are suffering with any illness, particularly with COVID-19, and those who are departed from this world, passed away due to this or any other reason. Allah give them a higher status in Jannah. Let's read Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. You can raise your hand. It's Al-Fatiha is a dua. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وإليك يرجع السلام. حينا ربنا بالسلام وادخلنا دارك دار السلام. تباركت ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب القرد وقنا عذاب السقر وقنا عذاب الميزان. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. يا رب بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم صل على محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا محبوب رب العالمين.